Hello, everybody. Come on in. Nice to see you all, or to see your names at least.
Right.
Welcome to the Brooklyn Rails Wednesday afternoon reading series. Today we've got a terrific reading for you put together by Elaine Equi with the title From NYC to LA, From Poetry to Pop Culture, a rail reading curated by Elaine Equi featuring Elaine, Amy Gerstler, Jerome, Sala, and Jack Skelley. I will introduce Elaine in just a minute to get the reading going. First, I'm just going to tell you a couple quick things about the rail and about this series. The one is that this is the 150th of these weekly readings. So if numbers are important, then 150 is at least half significant. And congratulations to everybody for getting to be here for that major event. This is this is also the 897th of these new social environment readings that the rail has been putting on. So we're closing in on 900, and somebody will get a piece of candy drop in their mouth on Monday next week, I guess, when that happens. And yeah, these go on all the time. If you're unfamiliar with the rail or here the first time, please pay attention to the chat. There'll be links to the various endeavors and publications of our readers going up as they read, along with information on the rail. And you can sign up for the rail's weekly newsletter, which will send information about these upcoming events. Really glad to have Elaine and everyone here. Elaine Equi's most recent book is The Intangibles from Coffee House Press. Her other books include Voiceover, which won the San Francisco State Poetry Award, Ripple Effect, New and Selected Poems, which was a finalist for the LA Times Book Award and on the shortlist for the Griffin Poetry Prize, and Sentences in Rain. Widely published and anthologized, her work has appeared in American Poetry Review, Brooklyn Rail, Court Green, and The Nation, and many other places. And she's also this year the guest editor of the Best American Poetry 2023. Please welcome Elaine to the Rail Reading Series.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you, Ansel. Huge thanks to Ansel and Carolyn and everyone at the Brooklyn Rail for having us read today and for providing us all with so much exceptional poetry year-round. Much, much, much appreciated. So we're here to celebrate two new poetry books. That's kind of why we wanted to get together and read. Jerome Sala's How Much? New and Selected Poems from NYQ Books, and Jack Skelley's Interstellar Theme Park, New and Selected Poems from Blazevox. Jack also has a book of prose, The Complete Fear of Kathy Acker, recently out from Semiotext. And we also want to celebrate over 40 years, it's crazy but true, of being friends and fans of each other's work. We all met in the early 80s when Dennis Cooper invited Jerome and I to read at Beyond Baroque in Venice. Jerome and I had been doing these performance type poetry readings in bars and galleries in Chicago. And it was so exciting for us to connect with this amazing group of LA poets. It was really a great scene. We met Dennis, Jack, Amy, David Trinidad, Bob Flanagan, Sherry Rose, Peter Sheldall, and many others. And we bonded immediately over our love of the three Ps: pop culture, pop art, and punk. So we want to leave a little time to talk after we read some poems, but now I'm going to read some poems, okay? My first one is called Out of the Blank. We waited for word to arrive, like a messiah in a stagecoach, or a sheriff riding a thundercloud. But she came without a name, a sheer barely, a sheer barely there-ness, teaching us first to hum the song of the game show. Essentially, nothing changed, only now it seemed more colorful and easily divided into categories, more fun. Suddenly, everyone took up a hobby. Mine is getting in touch with my antediluvian self, my inner reptile. Fire and tools are still a long way off, and language, well, who's to say we haven't been speaking it all along? This is called Mid-September. It's a seasonal poem that's in season. Okay. Closing the windows, turning on the AC. Opening the windows, turning off the air. Turning on the fan, changing into shorts. Closing the windows again and turning on the air. Leaving the AC on in one room, but not the other. Leaving the AC on and windows open at the same time. Wasteful, yes, but also refreshing. Striving to find the perfect balance between inside and out. Golden ratio of summer to fall. It's actually a good idea. I don't know if you just do it for short periods of time, but have the window open and the AC on at the same time. You kind of get the best of both worlds. This is a poem called Never Have I Ever, and it's dedicated to David Trinidad, one of the poets that I met when we read in Beyond Baroque. And his favorite color is pink. You need to know that. Never have I ever seen such a pink sky, like the tonsils and gums of a hippo, yawning as we ride over the bridge, where a sugar factory sweetens the river, and tall buildings melt into the water. I'd do anything. This is a robot poem. Neighborhood children like to undress and molest their robots. Elderly people seated in the shade play cards with robot companions. Families buying more than one robot get special deals. Some people object to the word robot. Some robots do too. This poem is called Flaming Star. It's a poem kind of about seeing movies when you're a little kid. So Flaming Star was one of the first movies my parents took me to. It's an Elvis movie. It's very good. And the poem says, going to the movies was anarchic back then because no one paid attention to showtimes. I don't think showtimes were invented. So you just showed up whenever you wanted. Flaming Star. Going to the movies was anarchic back then. You walked in on the story wherever it was in the telling, happy just to sit in the dark and listen to these giants, be with them for an hour or two. Women often taking off their clothes, men often shooting or getting shot. One of the first ones I ever saw was Flaming Star. I remember sad-eyed Elvis staring out at us as if we were a prairie. This is called Lorca's Guitar. I love Lorca. Who doesn't love Lorca? But I actually saw his guitar. I think it was at the Morgan Library. It was a show of his papers and special effects. So this is Lorca's guitar. I saw it on display, the case lined with red velvet, like part of his body, his voice, or the companion of his voice, laid out in an open casket, sealed within a glass box. It was a small instrument, almost a ukulele, this skiff that carried him across the lake of deep song. I stood before it, listened, and heard nothing. No wind in the olive trees, wind in the mountains. I thought it looked homesick, as the poet himself had been homesick in New York. I hope there is a museum guard, some shy boy who comes when no one is around and plays it. The next poem I'm going to read, I want to read for Amy, because we both really like the genre of food writing, and we often try and write food poems. And we both also really like desserts, almost more than anything else. So this next poem is called Maple. I know, Amy, you once said you're not a maple person, but as you will hear, I really love maple. Maple. Leave me alone with a jug of this syrup, and who knows what maple mayhem I'll get into. Once someone asked me for my favorite word. I wanted to say malice, but that sounded too mean. So I gave them maple. It did the trick, totally threw them off the scent of my aggression. But I honestly do love maple with its high-pitched sweetness, so piercing, only a dog can hear it. The taste speaks to some darkness deep in my soul, where a sleepwalker stands bathed in the light of an open refrigerator, swigging the sticky liquid like bourbon, straight from the bottle. I am drinking the blood, she chants. I am drinking the blood of the forest. And 3 more poems. They all kind of have a magical element. This is called The Craft. Many people want to find magic, like a new car or computer, want to put magic to work, making more money or keeping them young and immortal. These are the same things people have always wanted, which is how magic grew into capitalism, with magic symbols printed on every dollar. Someone should really find a new use for this old technology, so magic could become magical again. And this poem is called The Witch's Open House, and it's dedicated to Tony Simon, who's here. Hi, Tony, I'm reading your poem again. She is a writer and a visual artist, and she does a lot of channeling. The Witch's Open House. It is very airy, has no walls, no roof, no door. There are columns of stones that rise like smoke and stand precariously, but never fall. These stones, which may once have been birds, are easy to animate and rearrange to make stone tables and stone chairs. It is an energy field, a cape of space. Many may pass and not know it's there. And this is the last poem. It's called Generic Luck. Thank you. And it mentions someone named Felix Borello. And I guess I would call him someone's nodding. I wonder if people know him, but I think he might be called a graffiti artist. I don't really know what to call him. He writes a lot on the sidewalk with chalk. And he does different things, but mostly what he does is he makes chalk circles of different sizes. And inside he writes good luck spot or bad luck spot. Sometimes he puts a couple of other things in, but it's mostly good or bad luck spots. And he's all over in my neighborhood. So when I go out walking and I'm very superstitious, I have to be like really careful not to fall into one of his booby traps. Generic luck. With only a piece of chalk, Felix Morello can change your luck. Like a psychic Johnny Appleseed, he peppers the sidewalk with good luck spots, bad luck spots, kissing spots, even a few dancing spots. Sometimes he videotapes people stepping on and activating his blessings or curses. For a while, I thought he was upset about something because I saw way more bad than good luck spots, but that phase seems to have passed. Either he's had a change of heart or he just wants to do something different. Today, I noticed that he crossed out the word bad in all of his bad luck spots and wrote good above it, and vice versa. So now there are good bad luck spots and bad good luck spots, all perilously close to each other and practically overlapping. The divisions are collapsing. His street art is becoming more ambiguous and complex. There are even certain spots where he's drawn an opaque white rectangle above the word luck, as if he just can't decide anymore and wants us to make of it what we will. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thanks so much, Elaine. And thanks again for bringing everybody together. Our next reader is going to be Amy Gerstler. Amy's books of poems include Index of Women, which was published in 2021 by Penguin, and Scattered at Sea from Penguin also in 2015. She received a Guggenheim Fellowship in 2018 and 2019, a C.D. Wright Award from the Foundation for Contemporary Arts. She is the 2010 guest editor of the yearly anthology Best American Poetry, and her works appeared in numerous magazines and anthologies over the years. She is currently working on a musical with the actor and composer Steve Gunderson. Please welcome Amy Gerstler to the Rail Reading Series.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for showing up in New York afternoon and West Coast morning. And I don't know what time it is in Paris or all the other places that people are beaming in from. But thank you all. And I'm super honored and happy and on the good side of nostalgic, if nostalgic has a good side, reading with these revered comrades and people whose work I have admired for my whole life. The first poem I'm going to read is about watching only recently the movie, the very old movie of The Bride of Frankenstein for the first time. So innovatively, it's called The Bride of Frankenstein. Late at night, I glimpse my ideal woman. Problem is, she only exists on TV. Nonetheless, I am smitten. Seams divide one perfect cheek into 3 continents. Her impersonation of an angry swan is so feral that I long to fill my mouth with feathers. She walks stiffly, this actress on stilts, as though her joints won't work. Her eyes dart like a prey animal's. She's on screen only 3 minutes, yet in that brief time manages to channel both startled newborn and enraged caged predator. A crumbling puppet, her lipstick like ink. Her legs were bandaged so tightly on set, I read, that she was unable to move and had to be carried. When the film opens, before she becomes monster, she wears a white net dress with sequins shaped like butterflies, moons, and stars. Censors objected to the neckline of that gown. What an ultimate striptease it would be if her bandages peeled. She could continue to speak swan, I wouldn't mind. On stormy nights, our bed would become an elevator, ascending the floors of a blackened castle, bursting clear through the roof, penetrating an electrified sky. In each of her movies I read, she was asked to scream. Now she screams without my even having to ask. Okay, I have lots of pandemic poems. I think I'll try to restrain myself and only treat you to 1 or 2 of them, because I know most of us are trying to leave it behind and don't feel much nostalgia for the worst parts of the pandemic. Here is one that's called The Cure. The only thing that you might need to know for this is that if you're not a big dinosaur nerd, a sauropod is one of those very long-necked brontosaurus-like dinosaurs. The Cure. Doing fantastic, thanks for asking. I just chugged a glass of dinosaur urine and feel new baptized. If you're ever lucky enough to get your hands on a quart of this stuff, don't be squeamish. It makes penicillin seem like skim milk. No virus can slay you with dino piss in your system. Last night, I participated in the 8 p.m. scream out again. For a quarter of an hour, the 2 halves of my neighborhood yell as loud as they can across our little canyon to prove to ourselves, as well as the folks we can't see anymore, that we're still kicking after 9 months of pandemic lockdown. Now my throat feels strip-mined, but I'm glad because my sense of connection got fed. Not a whole meal, just a handful of crumbs, but hey, that's way better than nothing. After yesterday's hoot and holler session, a dude on the far side of the ravine lugged a pair of ginormous speakers up to his roof and blasted excerpts from 2 of Dr. King's famous sermons, plus some lines from a Cesar Chavez speech I could only understand half of because, alas, my Spanish is not what I might wish. Then he proceeded to DJ a weird-ass menu of songs, so loud the balcony was quaking under my feet, ranging from Staying Alive by the squeaky-voiced Bee Gees, who do sound like insects, to Aretha Franklin belting Chain of Fools. A commentary on the hopefully outgoing government was my guess. Joan Baez sang We Shall Overcome in her reedy soprano. Then Aretha again with Amazing Grace. When I realized I could actually see the ant-sized guy responsible for curating this spoken word and song broadcast from across the arroyo, shirtless on his roof with a quartet of friends, I admit I cried a little bit. Then I went back inside and downed another mug of sauropod pea. It's a lovely amber color with notes of ginkgo, horsetail, and fern. That drink sure has kept me going during this dark time. Okay, this is a little one that's called the meek, as in the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek. They sit apart at parties, wilting like neglected houseplants. Their music is easily confused with white noise. When the booze runs out, none of them has the nerve to shoulder into his coat and hike to a nearby liquor store for more. You never catch them wearing bright colors. Their laughs are half swallowed. They yawn a lot, wallow in apology, kneel, plead. Their sea of griefs has been rising since humanity began. So what's their plan? Most of the matter in the universe is invisible, and the meek teeter on the cusp of the unseen. When we notice them at all, we're distracted by bowed heads, tight smiles, benign disguises, behind which lurks an eternity of mildness and a ravening saber-toothed surprise. Okay, this is kind of a pandemic poem because I spent a lot of the pandemic in bed like a good citizen, hiding. So this is an ode to pillows. Ode to the pillow. Must a pillow, that cushiony head welcomer, always concede to our cheeks? Can it nurse no higher ambition than to impersonate a marshmallow? Might a pillow never stand up for itself? Does it possess no intrinsic personality? Must it shun sharpness, remain nothing but slump and mush, never displaying its anger or will? The sad fact seems to be that for all its virtues, the pillow lacks backbone. Smooth and cool to the touch, clad in a fresh pillow slip, my pillow for tonight exhales a whiff of the steam iron's disciplinary rigor, but transformed, its cotton sweetening the iron's hot metal breath, the breath of a prison matron, into something more like the breath of a meadow. A shock absorber, a pillow is more forgiving than a priest. Much is spilled into it, think dream leakage. And a pillow functions well as a confessional. The sick and the helpless may be buoyed up as if by a life raft in clinging to their pillow, or they may be smothered by one into a final good night. Like the uncomplaining potato, the pillow is willing to take shape according to people's needs, enduring mashing after mashing. Pillows have no sense of their own splendor. Employed as ineffectual weapon, a pillow can of course burst, and snow feathers, drizzle fluff, or rain buckwheat husks. And herein lies the pillow's mysterious connection to weather. It's believed pillows subsist on a diet of fog and cloud, though no one has ever seen them eat. Okay, and where is the last one that I wanted to read? This is a small elegy called 4E. Pardon me for pretending I might wish you back into existence so we could chat. Better yet, I'd remain silent and bask in the sound of your voice. Music I'm ashamed I can no longer quite call to mind. I do remember your habit of chattering your teeth in a cartoonish manner when you got nervous or bored. And I'm easily re-seized by how keenly I once yearned to be your home away from home, your quiet tree-lined street between park and that old stone church. But you slipped out of the party too soon, just as you always threatened you'd do. Remember being breathless together on the observation deck of the Empire State Building? We took the last elevator up to the 86th floor at 1:15 a.m., inhaled what drugs you had, and damn, they were good. How dizzily I miss you this minute, in which I find myself so much older, darling, than you ever lived to be. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Amy. Our next reader is Jerome Sala. Jerome's the author of 8 books of poems, including the aforementioned How Much? New and Selected Poems from New York Quarterly Books. Other titles include Corporations Are People Too, also from NYQ, The Cheapskates from Lunar Chandelier, and Look Slimmer Instantly from Soft Skull. Jerome's had poems in the Rail, Conjunctions, Pleiades, Boundary 2, Rolling Stone, and other places, and also in the Best American Poetry Series and the Pathetic Literature Anthology. Please welcome Jerome Sala.
So I want to say it again. It's a great honor to read with Jack, Amy, and Elaine. As Elaine mentioned, we know Jack and Amy so many years and have been fans of their work. It's like a real treat. Most of the have to do as an ex-advertising person have to do the product placement here. The vast majority of these poems are from the new book, How Much? New and Selected Poems. A lot of the poems I write are takeoffs on older poems because I always thought there was nothing wrong with modern poetry except it got old-fashioned. So what I'll take is a modernist poem and do a takeoff on it. So here, the first one is a takeoff on a famous William Carlos Williams poem called The Great Figure, where he describes a fire engine racing through the city. I'll read the Williams poem and then I'll read my takeoff on it. The Great Figure by William Carlos Williams. Among the rain and lights, I saw the figure 5 in gold on a red fire truck, moving tense, unheated, to gong clangs, siren howls, and wheels rumbling through the dark city. My takeoff is a few years back, I was walking through the city here and I saw, lo and behold, the Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon rumbling down the street. And I thought this would be a good new version of the Williams poem. So today's mystery. I saw the Oscar Mayer hot dog truck today. A nice big orange and yellow wiener riding by. It looked shiny and plastic, like the old Oscar Mayer wiener whistle you'd stick in your mouth and blow. People love it. Someone I know even posted a picture of it on Facebook. But I don't think it really sells hot dogs. So my question to you is, if not wieners, what? Coda. Does it sell hot dogs? No, because there would be lines of people around the block. Next poem is again a rewrite of a famous poem. There's a poem by Merwin. It's called Something I've Not Done. And in that poem, there's like a destiny, some action he's supposed to have done that he has not fulfilled. And I thought, what would be the contemporary version of this? And I was thinking about when you're on the internet shopping, you might click on a product you're interested in, and then you decide, you read about it, you go, well, I don't really want to buy this. But everywhere you go on your internet life, then the product will haunt you. It'll be in your Facebook feed, it'll be on your email, it'll be everywhere. So my rewrite of Something I've Not Done is Something I've Not Bought. Something I've Not Bought, after W.S. Merwin. Something I've not bought is following me. I see it in my Facebook feed, peeking out from the top of my email stream. The stream they promised they'd never sell, owned by a company I don't know well. Something I've not bought is following me, seeing as I've not bought it again and again. I see the tracks of its ads like tears running down my screens. In the morning, it's there on my phone before breakfast. It seems to pop out of the void in a banner over my browser. I shrug off its warnings, tapping a gray tab that says close. In the evening, before bed, it knows I've spent a whole day not buying it again and again. Not being a person, it doesn't take it personally. But if I ever click on it, I'll never be rid of it. It will inhabit the very soul of my machine, demanding ransom unless I pay or exercise it through a search and destroy mission in my applications file. If I shrug it off, I know it'll be okay. A stranger waving at me from an ocean liner, I pretend not to see. Next one is Elaine mentioned pop culture. What's one of the greatest pop culture monsters is, of course, Godzilla. And we have in our apartment here, we have a little 6-inch toy, a little 6-inch rubber Godzilla. We think of him kind of as a household god. Here he is here. And but he's kind of a sad god. So I wanted to capture the sadness of this 6-inch Godzilla. The sadness of the household god. 6-inch rubber Godzilla on the glass table over the green silk rug wants to be more, to link up with the bigger than himself. You can tell the way Godzilla growls in silence, pink mouth, white teeth, no flame, no sound. This is 6-inch rubber Godzilla, not CGI Godzilla, not man in rubber Godzilla suit Godzilla in post-atomic Toho pictures of 1956. But rubber Godzilla cannot be more. Rubber Godzilla is locked in rubber Godzilla world. You can feel rubber Godzilla beat with painted claws on the nothingness bubble that keeps Godzilla locked in rubber Godzilla world. This is a tiny claustrophobic world. 6-inch rubber Godzilla feels the lineage of giant Godzillas. Be Godzilla inside. Godzilla wants to be Godzilla. Saint Godzilla, prophet of all Godzilla forms, has told his disciples, when you learn to be content to be in rubber Godzilla or whatever Godzilla world, when you learn contempt, which means you say whatever, when you find yourself in rubber Godzilla or any Godzilla world, then you will learn the great joy of becoming nothing Godzilla. But Saint Godzilla was once movie star Godzilla before the great renunciation. So becoming nothing Godzilla is not so bad. For him, it is a relief. But not every Godzilla can say, Better to have been movie star Godzilla and lost than never to have been any Godzilla before. Godzilla wants to be Godzilla. Always, two last poems, always fascinated with the connection between money and poetry and how there's no money in poetry. This is called Long Shot. Like a pension plan manager who invests in hedge funds, because in a low interest rate environment where people are living longer, bonds no longer stand as pillars of dependable growth. So too, the poem can never depend upon the interest of others to verify its own value or even existence. Instead, like a financial steward, it must steer an uncertain course through turbulent waters, hedging its bets by telling itself a tale about a future it knows may be nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. For the waves of an uncertain planet may one day wash its pages clean. And the last poem is called How Much? The idea here is all the arts can be collectible and commodified, but how would you do that with poetry? How much? How much is it worth? The actual copy of poems by Pierre Revardie Frank O'Hara had in his pocket when he wrote, "My heart is in my pocket," it is poems by Pierre Revardie. Probably not as much as Duchamp's chess set or urinal. That's because O'Hara was not a painter, but a poet. And you know what that means. While the other arts add value to their objects, conspiring with the world of commodities to nurture the enrichment economy, verse makes its objects worse, relieving them of their worth, casting them out into the world beyond the cave of money-making into another place that we do not yet understand and cannot name. How much is it worth? The actual heart of Frank O'Hara, the one stripped of its metaphors. Can his heart actually be divested of such accoutrements? Or must we be forever lost in the moist mist on the brink of the heart itself, an irretrievable object? When Shelley was cremated, his heart refused to burn. Mary Shelley carried it with her for years, wrapped in a silk shroud inside a jar. When Revered Tibetan Buddhist teachers die, their hearts become relics and are said to bestow blessings, the greatest of which is the knowledge of emptiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. Jerome, I don't have a 6-inch Godzilla here, but I do have a 2 to 3 inch rubber dragon that's a replica of the dragon that St. George fought. You know, with rubber fire permanently coming out of its mouth. Our final reader today is Jack Skelley. Jack is the author of Monsters from Little Caesar Press, Dennis Wilson and Charlie Manson from Fred and Barney Press, Interstellar Theme Park, new and selected writing for Blaze Vox Books, and the novel The Complete Fear of Kathy Acker, published by Semiotext in June of this year. He is a songwriter and guitarist for the psychedelic surf band Lawndale, whose work you can find through SST Records, and their newest album, Twango, is available on all streaming platforms. Please welcome Jack Skelley to the rail.
Yay, thank you, everybody. Wow, this is very exciting. It's great to see so many, I won't say old friends, because you're not that old, longtime friends, and many new friends too. It's really cool. So I'm just going to read one poem, and because I just really want to just chat with Elaine and Jerome and Amy, and with all of you. This poem is actually the title poem from Interstellar Theme Park. Poem is called Interstellar Theme Park. And it's very short, so I may interrupt myself here and there for some of the more obscure references in this poem. But Interstellar Theme Park, this actually, the genesis of this poem came from actually Dennis Cooper's blog when he did a post on Alejandro Jodorowsky. And apparently director Alejandro Jodorowsky was going to direct a movie version of Dune, which was terrible that he never did, because it would have been the ultimate best version of Dune ever. And part of the blog section that Dennis had was like these letters of Jodorowsky saying all the things he wanted in his ridiculous movie. You know, like it would have cost billions of dollars, you know, if we had everything that he wanted to put in it. So I kind of took off from the first few lines of his wish list. And this is a list poem, Elaine, because I know you're, you know, fond of list poems. It's kind of a wish list. Interstellar theme park, based on Alejandro Jodorowsky's lost epic, Dune. I want horror ships. And I want these horror ships to dock in orbital flesh. I want ruby-throated ornithopters sipping the nectar of dwarf stars. I want Emperor Dali, Salvador Dali. I want Emperor Dali on a toilet throne of dolphins. I want drones that say, yes, daddy. I want H.R. Geiger mausoleums for the 27 Club. I want quasi-suspended animation, genital arousal optional. I want a planet of toys. I want a jihad of joys and a gulag of Karens. I want Rambodian grammar police. I want woke Stormy Daniels balloon rides. And the only reason I chose Stormy Daniels is I figured that's like the porn star most people know. So you can insert your favorite porn star names in there. I want woke Stormy Daniels balloon rides. I want light rail stations of the cross. I want vibrators by Dre standard. You know, not Beats by Dre, but vibrators by Dre. I want Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd to levitate the Tomorrowland Terrace. Do I have to explain who Syd Barrett is? Syd Barrett was the founder of Pink Floyd, and when Pink Floyd was their best. The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Let's see. I want 50-foot Miley Cyrus mourning her dead pets on Dog Star Sirius. This is a reference to Miley Cyrus's album she made with the Flaming Lips, Miley Cyrus and her dead pets. So I want 50-foot Miley Cyrus there. I want time itself to eddy and unhitch from its turntable of deception. I want moon juice cougars. See them jumpstart adaptation, anointed with next generation Kardashian lips and hips. I want a franchise of vaccination bars, curated by Bad Bunny and Kendall Jenner, with stalactites nippling jelly babies, but without the jingle jangle crash. While we're at it, I want fingers that are 17 trillion light years long, probing asteroids and healing hemorrhoids. I want, okay, here's another obscure reference. I want Aristophanes' tranny globe beings. So everybody knows from Plato's Symposium that Aristophanes conceived this sort of primal human concept of these beings that were both male and female and both and neither, and circular beings that eventually were split by Zeus into male and female. We were non-binary at the beginning. So I want Aristophanes' tranny globe beings rolling around and layered with eyes, day and night without ceasing, they sing. Now, don't forget, I want on-demand K-holes mouthing the words now and wow, drooling and dripping with ahegao. I want rings, blue rings, and rings around rings of Berlin blue orbs. Get me Stanley Kubrick. I want him to edit all humanity to grunts and symbols. On gas giant Neptune, I want Hello Kitty to be Hell Kitty. I want fresh baked toasts branded with the Holy Ghost. Oh, and I also want biofeedback donuts that induce Satori. I want 12 Lady Gagas to perform Lady Madonna. Each one is pregnant and haloed with 12 stars. I want drunk surfing on a river of anti-gravity. And into this river, I want a comet called Wormwood to crash with cold fire nightly at 9. I want Kali the Destroyer decapitating Parvati from Survivor. If you're a Survivor fan, you know that reference. I want to occupy octopi and learn their language of shape and texture. I want a sunken palace where the spirits of lost lovers murmur. I want thick, chewy anarchy in a candy-colored shell. I want to live stream apocalypse dreams. I want universal chaos. I want the abyss. And when the singularity finally arrives, and you know, this is when all the singularity, this is when all technology and consciousness compresses and concresses into unity, which is now, and dumb matter, when the singularity finally arrives and dumb matter rises to gaze upon itself and remember who it always was, always is, I want everyone to defragmentize into their star child, commingled dimensions, and upload into each other's arms. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jack. Y'all want to talk to each other a little bit?
It was a great reading. It was fantastic. We've never actually all read together. I was saying we've read sort of in similar settings, but this is the first time the four of us have read together, and it's amazing. I feel like I had an infusion of all kinds of things that I love.
Yeah, I was remembering myself, the first time we got to Los Angeles, Elaine and I, as Elaine said, we were doing the performance thing back then. We're at the airport. We're going to read at Beyond Baroque. We didn't know where we'd stay. We call up Jack, and Jack let us stay at his house. And I believe, Jack, you went to stay at Amy's house or something. Is that right?
Oh yeah, you guys called up. Dennis had booked you at Beyond Baroque, and wow, you called from the airport. And where do we stay? That was so punk rock of you. And so, so I said, okay, you can stay here at my little crummy Venice bungalow. And Amy put me up at her apartment in Brentwood. And then we hung out for a couple days too, before your reading and stuff.
The thing I remember about that reading, besides the fact that I was amazed by both your work, is that Jerome wore lederhosen.
Is that right?
Yeah,
think
well,
so.
Yeah.
that was, those were kind of in back then in a certain kind of way. I doubt that I could wear that again when I was reading. I'm too old for that. But
Dude, it was a timeless look then, and it would be a timeless look now. I'm just saying.
We actually used to spend an awful lot of time figuring out what to wear. I mean, not anymore for readings, but anytime we would read it, there was that kind of theatrical element of you had to have something really outrageous and crazy to wear.
Yeah, there was a store, a vintage store in our neighborhood called Kitsch, and we used to get kind of 50s clothes and things like that to read in, and we'd always get a really good deal on it. And back then, the thrift stores, you could still find a sharkskin suit with thin lapels for $10 or $15 in the basement of a thrift store abandoned by somebody from the 70s or 60s. Now that's all gone. If you go to a thrift store today, all of the good stuff is gone.
There's some
I mean,
really
that's
good.
and
Go
you know
ahead.
what that tells me is that you, Jerome and Elaine, were always. I mean, the fact that you dressed up like that, put on basically costumes, where you were aware of your audience, and you were conscious of your effect. You know, the effect of your appearance or as a performance on the audience, and that was a great inspiration to me. But also your subject, just tying it back to Elaine's title for this event. You know, your choice of subject matter was just like a great inspiration as well. You know, both of you just, you know, choosing from movies or whatever. I mean, we've never stopped doing that kind of stuff. And Jerome, you've really kind of finessed it into your, you know, sort of people or corporations too subculture is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I
As long
wonder-
as,
oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wondered if people had questions. There were. Not sure.
People could post questions in the chat if they want to, and I could read them out if they appear. So far, the closest thing to a question is Stuart recommending a Godzilla onesie as an outfit for a reading.
There's some great comments here. 6-inch Godzilla versus 50-foot Miley Cyrus.
Mark Timothy
win?
Edward wants to know if you ever hung out at Gorky's in LA.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I remember them
Hi,
having
Mark
really good
Timothy.
food.
That was like the hangout after hours in downtown LA. It was Gorky's because it was open late. You remember that? Yeah. Then my band even played
I
there
remember
one time.
once when we were right after you guys took us to the famous Tiki Bar. That was like a real treat.
Oh. Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. I mean, the Tiki Tea on Sunset, maybe.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, it was
Mark Hewitt's got it
pretty
again.
incredible.
Tiki Tea,
Amy, Amma wants to know where you get the dinosaur piss.
Oh, hey, Alma, I think you have to go to a great deal of trouble to collect it yourself. I'll give some tips afterwards. It's a good workout.
I wonder if people, do you have a different sense of pop culture? Because pop culture is always changing. So now when you think about connecting with pop culture or putting it in your work, do you feel, how do you attach to it? I find it's much harder. It's just so dispersed. There's not like, you know, 4 TV stations or what, it's just all over. And it's, how do you find yourself connecting with it? Or do you still want to? Do you look for it in different places? How do you do that?
I mean, just speaking for myself, I actually changed the line of that Interstellar Theme Park poem this morning when I was reading the newspaper. Because I had a line about I want Fruity Pebbles vaccination bars or something like that. And I changed that to I want to franchise the vaccination bars curated by Bad Bunny and Kendall Jenner. Because there was some story about that.
Good, very good.
There's and I think we talked about this though, the interesting thing is even the old pop culture that's in the poems still seems somehow contemporary because it's all available. So people recognize the references a lot of the times.
Do you think it's fair of boomers to, you know, oppress the younger generation with their references?
I think the one thing about that is there's a certain sense of timelessness now because like when when you first became entered Facebook, suddenly people you hadn't seen for 50 years are talking to you like it was just yesterday. So and when you listen to pop music today, there's so many allusions to older pop music, because I think because the archive is also available that the generational identification has got to be different now. I think it's much more old and new kind of thing.
There are
Okay.
a range of questions. Thoughts on the Barbie movie or the Taylor Swift thing? Did punk help unleash you as poets? And what's the difference between subject and surface? I'm just asking them all at the same time because pick and choose.
I actually haven't seen the Barbie movie yet.
No, we're gonna watch it tonight.
Hmm.
You can watch it on TV now. You can pay, but it's $20. It's a little pricey.
Hmm.
I like the question about subject and surface. That's very interesting to me because on the surface, you think the subject is the surface, but usually what I find when I'm writing is that the subject emerges. It's like the surface has to be sort of like erased and peeled away, and then you sort of get a sense of what the subject is, or maybe they just are constantly layered together and you can just keep finding other subjects under the surface and then just keep going. I like that idea. It's kind of like a layer cake.
I like that too.
Does that happen when you're working in the form that resembles a list, or does that happen more particularly when you're kind of talking your way into the poem, or both?
I think talking your way in for me. I don't know other people.
It's fun to have a poem that has so much surface, you kind of dare people to find a subject in it. where the surface kind of resists the subject. It just seems all shiny surfaces, like a wiener wagon going by, you know.
Very much like a wiener wagon.
Now I'm thinking about a John Wiener's wagon going by, but sorry. Okay, G. Schwartz, I think this is a question is asked about the best movie whose depth Minnie missed. I can't tell if that's a comment on Barbie or if that's, I think that's actually a question.
What is it again?
Is there what's an example of a really good movie whose depth Minnie missed? Like didn't get picked up on.
Good question.
Like The Faculty or something like that.
Well, I always liked one of my favorite movies is Teenage Caveman, and I hadn't seen it for years, and you can rent it again. It has stars Robert Vaughn, and at the end, it's one of those things where there's people running around in the Stone Age, and you find out that they're actually in the present. They've been bombed back to the Stone Age, and so Robert Vaughn, instead of riding off into the sunset, rides off into kind of a mushroom cloud. And it kind of symbolizes as he rides out of that movie, you can see his further identity as a spy in The
Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. So he seemed to be introducing the 60s inadvertently, kind of. That's my version. Does anybody else have one?
Well, I mean, to go along with your Godzilla stuff, a lot of those B movies, crummy B movies, have, you know, a subsurface dynamic that can be kind of meaningful. Like a lot of those Godzilla movies are metaphors, like your movie, Teenage Caveman, for nuclear annihilation, right? Because the monster is awakened by the nuclear bomb, and who better but the Japanese to, you know, created the Godzilla monster? You know, they knew about that better than anybody. And I think if you see the original version of that Godzilla movie, we even screened that once, Dennis and Benjamin and Amy, at Beyond Baroque. I think, with Mike Kelly. Or maybe I'm getting that wrong. I don't know. I'm mixing everything up. But there's a version of Godzilla that includes this scene of dozens of dead people, as if annihilated by a nuclear blast.
Gremlins 2 is suggested by Patrick Hill to join this list, and Bucket of Blood
Yes.
from
Bucket of Blood
Mark
is a great
Timothy.
masterpiece.
And I'll just note that David Lehman is mentioning that in Oppenheimer, the director snuck in some lines by George Oppen.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
That true?
That's pretty strange.
That's
Wow.
perfect. That's
Um,
perfect.
Let's we're close to time here. So what we normally do now is just throw open everybody's mics, unmute everyone, and let everybody say hello and goodbye on their way back out into the day or night, wherever one is. So can we do that? And thank you all again. Thanks so much for reading and talking with us.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everyone. Great reading, great talking.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Amy. Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you,
This-
Jerome. Thank you.
this is
Thank you,
amazing.
Elaine.
Amy, Jack, Jerome.
Dennis.
Thank you.
Hi, Elaine, we loved
You
it.
guys.
We have to do it again in person.
Oh, that would be great.
Question.
Oh,
Yay,
It was a-
Brooklyn Rail.
was
Support
a
Brooklyn
great-
Rail.
Brooklyn Rail. Brooklyn Rail.
Brooklyn Rail.
definitely support the
Thanks
real
so much,
picture.
everyone.
Thank you.
Brooklyn